All right, today we're doing negative exponents. Yesterday we talked about subtracting exponents when we were dividing, and this is just more of that, okay? And it kind of explains some things now. The reason why we subtract is because negative exponents, for any a that's not 0, again, a can't be 0, and any whole number n needs to be a whole number. It can't be a decimal, it can't be a fraction, it needs to be a whole number, is that when a or any number is raised to a negative number, to make it a positive exponent, you flip it. Okay? And make it on the bottom. We just put it on the bottom of the fraction. We subtracted yesterday. If we had a to 5 here and a squared here, we subtract it. It's because this is actual negative exponent. When it's on the same side as a positive exponent, it's negative. So that's how we know the difference. Any number that's been raised to a negative exponent, if I want to get rid of the negative exponent, I put on bottom. And here's the example. 8 to the negative 2 power. If I want to get rid of the negative exponent, I just make it a fraction and make it 1 over 8 squared. And that's all I do. So write these down. Write each expression using a positive exponent. What it's going to ask you to do is write everything using it. Just changing the negative exponent to positive. Now, I just want to point out, and I see people do this, they think 2 to the negative third. I've seen this, and they wrote it negative 6. This is not 2 times negative 3. Anything raised to the power is not 2 times that power. That's not how it works. And the negative doesn't make it negative. Okay? So don't do this. Just don't do it. Okay? That's not how it works. This, okay, is 1 over 2 to the third power. In the negative 4th power, we just write 1 over m to the 4th. So the only thing you're doing is dropping the negative sign and writing 1 over that power. Is that very complicated? No. 2 to the 0 power, I just want to remind you guys what anything is. If it's raised to 0 power, what is it? It's 1. Okay? Just reminding you guys because they're going to do that to you. All right, write this down. All right, now they're going to have you do the opposite. They're going to give you a fraction with an exponent. They're going to want to get rid of that fraction. Right? Which when you do that, you have to write it with a negative exponent. So this is 4 to the negative 2 power. That's all you do. Now what they'll do is they'll give you numbers that don't have powers. Here they're not raised to a power. And I'm going to show you this because this is what I don't want you to do. I'm not taking this answer. 100 to the negative 1. That is not the answer I'm looking for. Right? I want it raised to a power. I want an actual to have an exponent other than the number 1. So what you got to do is you got to figure out what could I write instead of 100 that would be equal to 100 that would have an exponent. Kurt?
50 to the negative second?
No, because that's 50 times 2, and that's not what 50 squared is. Okay? Which easiest thing to do is, if this is a square, 100 is a square, what would be the square root of this? What would give you 100 if it was times by itself? 10. 10 squared, because 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, all we're going to do today is just the squares. Okay, it's not going to ask you to do anything more than that. Okay? So if you're trying to go from 100 to a number with an exponent, it has to be 10 squared. Which now I need to write it with a negative exponent. So I flip it to the top and write it with a negative exponent. And that's all I do. Here, 1 over 25. So Jaden, what could I rewrite 25 as that would have an exponent? 5 to the second power. Good. Right? Because 25 is a square. If you don't remember, go through your squares. Right? 1 squared would be 1. 2 squared would be 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 is 16. 5 is 25. And there it is. Right? Now, they're not going to give you anything more than maybe 13 or 14 or 15 squared. Okay? They're probably won't go past that. Now, to rewrite this using a negative exponent, Brittany, what would I write?
You would have 5 and negative 2.
5 raised to the negative 2 power. Good. Any questions how to do that? Alright, write this. Alright, so write the decimal as a fraction and as a power of 10. What they're going to do is give you some numbers like this, okay, really small decimals that you need to change to a fraction. So first thing I do is I write what the last number they give me, I write that on top. Or the last numbers, the significant numbers. Zero's not considered significant here. And then I figure out what would go on bottom. Well, we've done this before. We've changed decimals to fractions. To figure out what number needs to go on bottom, what I do is I count decimal places. This is what decimal place? Do you guys remember? The 10th decimal place. So this would be the 100th. This would be the... So this would be... So this was the millionth decimal place. Millionth decimal place. So underneath 1, I would write what? 1 million. 1 million. Right, which I need to write, which this doesn't really count as a fraction. I need to write the fraction with power 10 and then just the regular power 10. So 1 over, I need to change a million to a power of 10. So 10 is going to be my base, and I need to figure out what exponent I would need to raise 10 to. What power I need to raise 10 to get 1 million. The easiest thing to do is count your zeros. How many zeros are there? There's 6. For a million, there's 6. So that's how I write a million as a power of 10. Now this is the fraction. I also want to write it as a power of 10 without fraction. So 10 to the negative 6. So there's your two answers. Man, that's all you do. So let's do 0.0001. Well, first thing I do, 1 over, I figure out what numbers got to go on bottom. So I count. This is in the 10th, this is the 100th, this is the 1000th, so this would be the 10,000th. So I'd write the 10,000 underneath. That's how you figure that. Now I need to write it in the power of 10. So, let's go, William. What power would I raise this to?
10 to the negative third. Okay.
No, just what exponent do I need for the 10?
Oh, exponent.
Yeah.
3.
3?
Oh, there's 4. Well,
How many zeros are in 10,000?
oh, 10,000. 3. Oh, 4.
4. So what exponent would I need?
10 to the 4th power.
So I needed the exponent would be a 4. Alright. And then I need to rewrite it using a negative exponent, so 10 to the negative 4. And there's my two answers. Any questions? Evaluate. You have 4 to a to the negative 5th power, so I'm going to rewrite it plugging negative 2 in for a, which since it's a negative number, I want to write it with parentheses. And then what I want to do is I want to rewrite negative 2 to the negative 5th power like we've been doing. I want to write that as a fraction. So I'm going to write 4 over 1 as a fraction. I'm going to times it with what negative 2 to the negative 5th power is with a positive exponent. And that's 1 over negative 2 to the 5th. Now you don't really have to write 4 over 1. You can put 4 on top of the negative 2 to the 5th, but I'm just doing it so you understand what we're doing. Then do negative 2 to the 5th power. Kendall, what would that be?
What?
What is negative 2 to the 5th power? What would that be? Well, let's think about it. Always what I do is I figure out, is it going to be a positive number or a negative number? What do you think? It's going to be negative. 5 is an odd number, so odd number and negative signs. And then I do negative 2 times itself 5 times. So what's negative 2 times, or so we've already figured out it's going to be negative, so let's just do 2. What's 2 times 2?
4.
Right? So you've gotten rid of 2 of them. What's 2 times 2?
4.
4. What's 4 times 4? 16. So I've gotten rid of a total of 4 2's, right? How many do I have left?
2. Wait, 1.
1. So what's 16 times 2?
32.
So your answer is 32. Okay, that's how I do it. You know, you can do it differently. You could do 2 times 2, 4 times 2, 8 times 2, 16 times 2, 32. You can do it that way too. Does anything cancel between 4 and 32? Yeah, 4 does. So there's your answer. -1/8. Here's your assignment for today.